I'm going to try to come off of, um, come back onto the camera really quickly. So you can be doing Superman poses, power poses. My feet are up on my desk, right? Sometimes it feels like it's a little silly when you power pose or put a cape on or dress up with a kid. Sometimes it feels silly. But you know what? It's helping them to dream. Kids, when they have these adverse experiences, it denies them, it erodes their ability to dream. So power posing. In the hood, we used to call it fake it till you make it. And then Dr. Amy Cuddy, use those same words in the Harvard study. Fake it till you make it. See yourself the way I see you, and then give them the space to practice it. It's like dance like nobody's watching. You guys have heard that before, right?
Sarah, you have some good stuff coming in the chat box too.
Let's read through it.
Can you see it?
Yeah, it says, I think sometimes adults who have some adversity think that it made them strong, so that they should not pamper their children by telling them they are valuable humans. I know this because I lived it. Can we talk through that a little bit more? I think sometimes adults who've survived adversity, that it made them strong, so that they should not pamper their children. So did you not feel pampered? Is that, I want to make sure I'm reading it right.
Oh, yeah. Hi, this is Tony. I'm with Children and Family Services. Yeah, you're reading it right. So basically, yeah, I grew up with a father who felt that to tell me my strengths and my good qualities would only make me kind of soft, if you will. So the way to make your child strong and successful is to kind of make things a little hard for them. So
they don't want to be perceived as, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm not probably verbalizing it quite right, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Because I will tell you a story, and then I see his hand is up and I get to see. I will tell you a story. I see myself as pretty tough for those very reasons. Now, my mom, every day, she would say, hey, pretty girl, hey, pretty girl, hey, pretty girl. And, I was a tomboy and I was tough and I grew up with all boys. And, that was the thing I like to hear. But every day my mom would say, hey, pretty girl, right? And because I grew up pretty tough and my kids have cakewalk life, and I don't think that they are hard enough in their life because I have to eat lettuce and mayonnaise sandwiches and not, that was my life. And so my son, when he was younger, he was probably about 4, and he said, Mommy, your words are like a snake. And I'm thinking, I don't enunciate my S's, right? I'm logical. I'm like, I must not be enunciating my S's. But I'm going to turn back on my camera, so it might get a little choppy. But what he was doing was he was scratching his arm. And I was like, what does it mean? And my husband, who's a comedian, said, your words are like venom. Your words are like venom. My son did this. Your words hurt me. Because they're too hard. And that is what to study. Empathy. I love my kids. I do everything for my kids, but my kids need to be loved in different ways. So Tony, you are spot on. Yeah. Worked for them. Might not work for you. Might not work for you. Susie, very good. Thank you for that, Tony.
I think I lost my train of thought. Um, but I was just gonna, I'm not sure the person that was saying something before where she said that she's lived, to survive, she survived adversity. Tony, right? Tony.
Yeah,
And I
totally.
can, yeah, and I can empathize with that because I also grew up in a very challenging and difficult upbringing. But what I did, and I with the children, I did the opposite. So because I didn't grow up in a good environment, I wanted the children to be able to thrive. So and it was hard because I didn't have anyone to teach me how to do that. I was very young. I was only like 13, 14 years old. And I didn't have anyone to teach me how I should raise children at that age. But I chose to give them what I hadn't been given. So I kind of reversed it a little. And I do
Yeah.
that now with, the children as well. I don't know
Absolutely,
when.
absolutely. And I'm sorry, Susie, were you saying something?
No, that was it. My thought process was a little off, but yeah.
No, I think you're spot on because that's very typical that we do the opposite. And it can happen. My sister and I grew up, both of us are children of my grandmother's barter and trade, if you will. And my mother grew up, or I could see her in her life wanting a husband. And my sister grew up wanting and feeling like she needed a husband. And I grew up the exact opposite. So it's a natural phenomenon. And it's our versatility, which I'm going to talk about later, and our self-awareness, vulnerability that allows us to get to the middle, some happy medium. And so on the next slide, this is just the point I just want to make here. Communication in a relationship is like oxygen to life. Just as simple as that. The way we use our words, the words we choose to use today, I'm asking us to elevate it and be more intentional about using it because words are powerful. It is like oxygen for our children, for ourselves. So I connect that to and you can move on to the next slide. I connect that analogy, oxygen, to our ability to live authentically, to live and be accepting of who we are and stories and our experiences. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, no need for me to go this painstakingly, except that I will ask every single one of us to think about when you then look at your children, when you see them, where do their deficits fall on this hierarchy? Where do their deficits fall? Where does their lack of trust? Will I be able to eat? Will I have shoes? Will my clothes be clean for me? Will I not have holes in my shoes? Everybody knows Aesop's fables. I don't. I still, for a long time, had to sing my ABC because, I just didn't have the parental support back at home to help me study. Safety. I grew up in the hood. I never lived in a project, but there would be people shot dead on my steps. So there's a lot of insecurities that happen there. A lot of insecurities that happen there. What are our children struggling with? Why do they feel like, I go back to the 9-year-old that's being bullied. When we talk about safety, it's hard for him to feel like he belongs in any group. We have to help him figure out when he feels most safe. When does he feel most safe? And listen to when he feels most safe. And the kinds of conversations and those words that you see and have aspiration for, use those positive words. Use those positive words. The other day, I saw you hit that baseball with so much power. And then apply that word power and confidence to his deficit in safety. See how that, right? Well, so things I'll ask you guys to do. You don't have to do it today, but it is one of the, I'm here to chat with us, but I'm a strategist. I like to have plans. So my goal is for each of you to have a triangle like this and plot where your child's deficits are. And then create a communication, a conversation around it. Use what you know is good that they can go have a touchstone to. Where, when they're talking about gender identity, you know, teenage brain doesn't develop until they're 21, 22. They're males. Look it up, it's the truth. So love and belonging is crucial. And I will tell you, my daughter, we're Black, my husband's mixed. We live in a pretty all-white community. And when my daughter was at this age and stage of boyfriend, and she also played competitive basketball on a club team, well, where did she get the acceptance? She got the acceptance from the girls on the basketball team. She got the rejection from the boys. If they were Black, they wanted to date white girls, or Latin girls who were white. They did, you know, they weren't dating Black girls. It wasn't like that. So she got rejection. She didn't feel like she belonged. And it was a struggle for me as a mom, because I want to put her in a safe neighborhood. I want to give her, just like Susie was saying, what I didn't have. And she couldn't understand her identity. Who am I? Who am I? And I can't make her who I want her to be. So I ultimately have to say, there's something that's not feeding her soul. Talk to me, Zoe, about who people are. And me go help you be around your people. Got it? So find out where the deficits are. Because when they do that more and more often, they will arrive at esteem. I call it micro-confidence, micro-confidences. And I'm making up that word, but I promise you, as a strategist and as a nerd, I'm a geek. I love statistics. And anybody who loves statistics knows that in calculus, area under the curve analysis. So you want to know how to get point A, how much space is under a curve. You break you break the curve into tiny, tiny, tiny squares, and you take the area of each of those squares. The quickest way to get from the left to the right, or wherever you want to go, is called the critical path. You create the critical path. You win at those small little boxes under the curve, and you celebrate it. You celebrate their success, and you celebrate their failure. Write this down. I see many of you writing. It's a concept called fail forward fast. Teach your children to embrace failure. Fail forward fast. Time in this call to unpack all the things I'd love to share, but I'll be back. Kathleen will have us back. But so plot on this hierarchy what you feel your children's needs are, what you feel like your needs are. And in these little rungs on the triangle, break them down. How you might have a million conversations. right in the space of love and belonging. You see something, how you say and you create the space. Got it? Any questions on that before we get to the next slide? Next slide kind of brings in what our kids, like how do we talk in our kids' language, which is social media, right? I thought this was phenomenal. When I was trying to help my daughter find her people, because kids are also very virtual these days. So maybe her people aren't in her school, right? Maybe the things that she's interested in, there's not a club for, right? So how did, because social media can elevate you or it can erode you. So teaching your kids healthy social media habits to help them fill some of these deficits, but not unmonitored. Lean in with them. My middle daughter loves K-pop, loves K-drama, and I needed to connect with her. So I leaned in and laid down and watched K-drama. Now I know all the songs and everything. I'm gonna go see, whatever the groups are. But figure out, right? Find or create a social network. Like, what if your kid is a foodie? What if they love food? They got this food they absolutely love, right? When they're at home, maybe feeling lonely, right? Lean in and say, okay, we just miss mac and cheese. How many other different ways we make mac and cheese? Get a recipe. Figure out what makes them feel where you can be present with them, where they, to you, right then and there, they matter, right? If we're talking about safety and security, we want to make sure that you feel safe. Like my kids can't have Snapchat. Yeah, they can't have things that disappear before I can see them. So I need to make sure they're also protected. A human tendency is to follow the masses are using, but let's make it a safe choice. Don't say, no, you can't be on social media. No. Let me see something that you did on social media. And this is not about the physical shelter. This is about feeling, sometimes it's like the touchstone. Like if I have something I can touch, I know that I'm safe. It's like Linus with the blanket. I know that I'm safe. So it's just like, when the kids were younger, my kids were younger, and I want to give them autonomy, I give them 2 free choices. So I'm still kind of setting the boundaries. You can have peanut butter and jelly, you can have Nutella, or you can have turkey and cheese. But they get the choice of any of those 3. They satisfy me because it's healthy for them. I mean, maybe not Nutella. But for some reason they love it. Okay, but in love and belonging, this is big for our teenagers who are struggling to find people. They're struggling to find their people. I promise you, with my 13-year-old, not my 20-year-old, but my 13-year-old, I started watching what I didn't do with my 20-year-old. And I made it an intentional effort to find groups, explore what she's interested in, and go work really hard to start building a community, finding those groups, you keep saying, one day you'll find your people. We're not modeling how to find it, right? And the friend they connect at the park might not be their person. It just might be a person. So lean in a little bit more and help them connect. Social media is a good pathway to do it if they're teens, but these same things apply if they're young and don't have phones and are not on social media. Help them build their own community. And in self-esteem, oh my goodness, we see self-esteem as confidence. Kids see it as popularity. Am I popular? Any friends are following me? How many likes did I get on that post? Right? One of the greatest things that we could ever do for our kids is I play dress up with my kids, and I'm a pretty zipped up person. I'm a pretty conservative person, and I have 4 jobs. I don't have a whole bunch of time, but I make the time to get silly with my kids. Right? We have $20. We go thrifting, and lo and behold, if these kids don't start finding their own style, finding who they are, it's little things, personal branding. And personal branding starts with that silhouette of who they think they are and who you see them being. Here's the biggest thing in this triangle over here: engaging in conversations, voicing. Let them tell you. Let them tell you. They might have 1% right, but you are trying to inspire their confidence. If they get a 90% right, say, you are so correct. You are so correct. Then I might want to add to it. But what is the word they're hearing me say? And you see my body language, but I am nodding. My body is saying, that's spot on. High five. I never thought about it that way. I never thought about it. Is there another way? Maybe they only get it 20% right. You can say, are there more things we should think about? Right? We don't have to have all the answers. Give a space to voice what they know and reward it. That's how we're going to instill and ultimately help them get to their personal fulfillment. That's how we can leverage. That's how we can leverage this model. Now I want to move through, because I know we've done a lot of talking, and I do get to some of the tactics on communication. So on the next slide, I'm not going to spend too much time on it because it's pretty self-explanatory that the more confident our children are, the better they perform. The better they perform, period. We're pressuring to get really good grades in school. Stop with the grades and boost their confidence on something like, you ride that bike really well. You are so good on the bike. Did you know that Albert Einstein discovered the theory of relativity while he was riding a bike? Right? And that's a true fact. That's a true fact. So help them feel confident and good, and then you align it to what you see for them. What are the mechanics of riding? It's a stretch for us, but we have to lean in. What are the mechanics of riding a bike? You have 2 wheels, it's less stable, right? And then what happens if this wheel breaks? Problem. And maybe when you're going to this biology test or this math test, you'll have the confidence of getting the answers, simple answers I asked you about this bike. And Wimbledon did this study. It's the psychology of winning. It's the psychology of winning. You want to prime them, and that's what we're going to talk about next. You want to prime them to be winners. That way they win, right? And then apply those things that are transferable to the things they have deficits in, right? Kathleen will tell you we're intelligent in up to 16 different ways. Our kids aren't going to be smart in every single way, right, Kathleen? So somebody read this quote for me as we move on to the next slide, just because I feel like I've been doing a lot of talking.
If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader.
You are a leader. Thank you, Judy. You're a leader. And that's exactly what we are in our children's lives. We model it. We need to model it. And not all leaders are perfect leaders. Try leaders. Here's the thing. Here's the definition of a leader to me. I work with a lot of leaders every single day. Leaders get people to go somewhere on a journey, do things that they either didn't have the courage to do, they didn't know they needed to do it. get on the other side, they're better for it. Right? And sometimes leaders have to deliver tough messages. So that's what we need to do in our actions. These are actions I'm talking about us taking. And these actions, this is the challenge before us as we get to the next slide. This is the hardest part. What's the hardest part of getting young people to adopt a more positive outlook? We know it. We know most of our children in these situations are coming from a fixed mindset because they haven't seen a growth mindset model. They haven't had leaders in their lives like you to give them the words. Not I give up easily, but how about we try something new? Failure is the limit of my abilities. No, 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 no. Let's talk about what did we do when we fell off of that bike? What did you do? How long did it take you to get back on that bike? That's failing. When you fall off that bike, you failed. But when you got back on it, you were able to make the adjustments. And that's the opportunity for growth. And that's real feedback. This is not some contrived set, like you can do it. That's great. But you can do what is a better, more complete motivation. And when you can do it in a way that they listen, even better. And I want to advance us through that because I can see we're at 6:40. So here's the thing, making sure that we understand growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide that we see here. I put the book here, Carol Dweck. This was like a number of years ago, and many iterations have come out. But at the end of the day, what we do understand is we can update our mindset. We can update it. And the way we can update it is with our intentional words and our intentional actions. That's why I asked you to find the silhouette and write down those words and those abilities for those kids and start speaking those words and those abilities for those kids. That's how we inspire them. Very good. And as we go on to the next slide, here's an equation because I like equations. Remember, I touched on it very quickly. Don't just say, great job. Like we have a new puppy in our house. We have a new, if we had any more chaos in our house. But we got a new puppy. And the kids say, Benny, his name is Benny, Benny. And they might be over by the food bowl, or they might be over by the door. And what they're really trying to communicate is, Benny, come eat, or Benny, go potty. But all they're doing is calling Benny. So they're not communicating fully the action. And sometimes Benny can't trust what they're saying, because if he comes over to one side and he thinks he's going to get a treat, well, the kids aren't reliable enough in their treat giving. So Benny doesn't always trust if he goes over there, he's going to get a treat. People are no different. People are no different. In order for our children, in order for us to get them to trust that we're cultivating their minds towards being their best selves, we see for them and how they get to see it, we have to be credible, which means we have to be human. We have to be credible. We cannot be fake. We must be reliable. We have to be vulnerable. We've got to be vulnerable and intimate. That's why I asked that question very early on. How authentic were we in our conversation with our kids? And self-orientation, that relates to our caring. Do we really care? Like the story about Venom, my kids didn't feel that I cared for them. They couldn't feel it. And it is revealed in how we focus, the degree to which we are concerned about our own interests versus theirs. Now, I've been in nonprofit work a very long time. And when I first got into nonprofit work, I was very dismayed at how many nonprofits put their own mission, air quotes mission, you can't see me, before the real outcomes. Right? They have vanity metrics because but you can't trust the outcomes are not consistent, right? I want us to make sure that we are in this for the real reason. Growing, maturing children who will become leaders in this world that are accepting of themselves and can speak and actualize who they were born to be. Because their journey is a part of their story. We can never undo their journey. Trustworthiness is at the root of being able to shift our kids' perspectives, anybody's perspective. If I can't trust you, it's just like Uber. Let me just see by a show of hands real quick. This show of hands. How many people jump into an Uber? You ordered it, you jump in. Okay, there's a few. Right, I can't see enough hands. Okay, I see you, Jen. All right. How many people on the end order the Uber? You check your phone, you check the license plate, you ask the driver his or her name before you get in the car. Kathleen's like, maybe. Anybody else like that? Diane's nodding her head. She was like, I need to double check and triple check before I get into this car. So trust. Some of us engender trust easily, and some of us make you earn our trust. You got to know which side of the trust equation your kid is on, right? And if it's, and I saw that early on, someone said trust was an issue. They can't trust. Double check, are we credible? Double check our reliability. Double check how close we're willing to lean in with our kids. And when they ask, why are you doing this? Make sure you have a real reason. Make sure you have a real reason. All right, so let's go on to our next slide. All right, I'm not gonna spend too much time on this slide, but you guys will get this deck, I believe, right? Kathleen, we can send this deck. Or you can get this from the 5 dysfunctions of a team. Yes, thumbs up, I see you. All right, trust is at the base. You can never get to results. You can never get to performance. This is the relationship between confidence and performance. At the root of that is, I just shared it with you in an equation. And I teach team after team after team in Kaiser Permanente. I'm actually just about to get published in the Journal of the American Medical Association for the work that I did in Kaiser for diversity and inclusion and trust. And I will promise you that in the absence of trust, if we are not vulnerable, if we are not authentic, our children will never trust us. If we think we're perfect and we have to have all the right answers all the time, we are not showing ourselves as human. So in order to engender trust, be human. Go first. I got it wrong. If you make a mistake, I got it wrong. I was wrong. And here's the other thing. In conflict, because conflict will happen, encourage the conversation. Encourage the conversation. This artificial harmony, we are going to be amazing. This was a tough day. We are good. Let's talk about what happened today that made you feel not safe. And what are some of the things we can do to make you feel safer? Right? What are the things, going back to the 9-year-old, what are things you can do to make you feel safer? And it's your responsibility to watch if they do something so you can bring it back. Ambiguity, commitment. Back to the 9-year-old, making sure he owns it. He owns it. Make sure he understands. You are not going to be there on the playground, in the lunchroom, in the hallway. He has to make the commitment to stand up for himself. He has to make the commitment to say, and he might feel the fear. You tell him it's okay to feel the fear and to have that conversation anyway. Have it anyway. And it's your responsibility to make sure that if he needs you or calls upon you, you stand up. Accountability. Here's the biggest thing about accountability. Oh, we had this struggle in my house. Well, I practice excellence, end to end, complete something end to end with a happy heart and good intentions. That's the definition of excellence in my house, right? I'm not saying you got to be me. If you start something, finish it. And I have those expectations. If you have low expectations of your child, of your partner, of your friends, don't be mad when they disappoint you because they didn't rise to your expectations. Say, I expected this, and this is where I didn't get, and I felt frustrated. I felt hurt. I know you can do this, so I need you to be accountable. Then go back to the silhouette. You're this, you're that, you're all these things. Results, the focus on the outcomes. The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team is an easy, fun book to read and is very applicable to families. So let's move on real quick because I know Kathleen said we're pretty much we're getting to the time. So
And
we're
Sarah,
gonna play this
going
game
to
real quick. Let's jump down to
and
slide
Sarah,
22. Let's skip.
Sarah, before we end, we're going to want to introduce Krisha as the next
Yes.
trainer. So you let me know when it's a good time for her to hop in.
Okay, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to only do 1 or 2 of these exercises because I definitely want to get you to social styles really quick. So we're going to move through this.
You let us know, no hurry.
Okay, good. Let's move on to the next slide then, and just kind of play this game really quick. Now, is that slide? Are the things jumping around? I think we need to hit it again so they can start moving. Okay, so okay, wonderful, wonderful. So this is a game that we oftentimes play. You've played it where you're like, oh, I'm going to say this word. Then the person that next to me comes up with another word. And it's the word that they come up really, really quickly. And that's because they, in somewhere in their experience in their life, they've been primed to make that association. So let's play this real quick. Let's go on to the next slide. What's the word on the slide? Somebody type into chat or say out loud. If the word apple comes up, what's the next word you're going to say? Anybody?
Pie.
Or
Pie.
Pie. All right. Somebody else. What's after pie?
orange.
Orange. What's after orange? Anybody? Sweet. Good. Right? So there's a reason why we go apple and pie. But did anybody else go apple? Did anybody else think anything else other than apple?
Computer.
Computer. Computer. Absolutely. Let's click real quick and see how this works. This is priming. It's called priming. Never before Steve Jobs. What we have created, we would have associated apple. Let's click one more time. We would have associated the word apple with the computer, with the phone, with music, with any of those things. So how have we been primed? How is the world priming us? And the way we start with these associations, if you will, is our past experiences and our relationship to those words. Priming, as we get to the next slide, is our response to previous experiences. Let's look really quick. What is on this slide? How would we finish this missing word? Missing word number 5.
Green.
Green.
Green. I just primed you to say green. But if we go to the next slide, I gave you words. I gave you a visual quite intentionally. And how are you going to finish this one?
Great.
Great. What's that? Oh, I thought I heard something. Yeah. So this is priming. This happens. Visual priming works best with verbal clues, and verbal priming works best with verbal clues. So at the end of the day, I'm talking about the words that I want you to have with your kids. As we get on to the next slide, I want to move through these things pretty quickly. As I get on to the next slide, there's a definition of priming. But what it basically says is that it's a cognitive process that when we see one stimulus, it can alter our response or our reaction to the next one that we see, green or great, based on if I prime you with colors or fruit. And we want to do that in a positive way. You want to do positive priming. In college and in schools, they will review the test. They will review the subject matter. That's why studying, because what you're doing is you're priming yourself. So when you see a question like that, next time you attempt it, you're more likely to get it done. That's priming. That's how we prime it. You can take this, this slide here as a test at home. But at the end of the day, we're not going to do this one. It's just for you to go home and practice. But what I asked you to do was tell a story. You tell a story through it. So that way, ultimately, you can see if you tell a story about crime and just too busy or something bad happened to me, he'd be more likely to autofill the words on the right versus, oh, I was in this wonderful, wonderful neighborhood and I stopped past my in-laws and had apple pie. They're going to be more likely to fill in the words on the left-hand side. That's priming. And that's what I want us to understand about priming. So as we move through, I think I'm going to jump a few slides. Let's jump to, that's the definition of priming. Now prime, we're going to move through this. Let's click onto slide number 33 really quickly. Slide 33. Okay, we all see things differently. Some of us are going to see the young woman and the old woman. I don't know what slide number this is. Some of us are going to see the older woman. Some of us will see the older woman. At the end of the day, this slide is just to say that we see things differently, but we also hear things differently. So I'm rushing through, but I want to get to slide, slide 34. Slide 34. A few more. Let's not play the video.
Call you back.
Just keep progressing, Jackie, and she'll stop you.
Okay.
Can you keep moving it forward, Jackie?
Sorry, just a second. I think by pressing play, it kind of took me out of the.
Well, what I want to show as we get to this is this phenomena called, right there, 34, Jackie, right to the left of your cursor. So this notion called social styles. And what this basically says is that, and we want to play this in slideshow mode, and then okay. But what it basically says is that people assert themselves and they feel comfortable or in more control in different ways. So if I am a person that's focused on task, I feel like I'm in more control, and I can share my screen if it's easier. I feel like I'm in more control when I'm focused on task.
Is this my costume?
Knows that for everyone.
Jackie, at the bottom of that, to the bottom left, where it's sort of grayed out, click on that button. Okay, this is good. And we can click one more time. Yep. Okay. So there are task folks and moving through this fast, and there are people direct folks. And this is how on this y-axis, this is how we feel like we're in control of our day. I feel like I'm in more control when I have a list. I feel like I'm in more control when I'm around people. I assert myself, or I emote. I assert by telling people things, or I assert and learn about the world by asking questions. And we can click. And when, you can just keep, you can click. And when I am a task person, my body language is different. I use fewer emotions. I go to a grocery store with a list. Like, watch your child. Do they make a list? Maybe they're more conservative. There's nothing wrong with them. They just feel like they're in more control when they are focused on tasks. And then there are folks that are more focused on people that love to be around people. When they go to the grocery store and the kids see other friends, they're like, whoa, that's so awesome. They're changing their voice, their facial expressions are different, right? They feel more in control, and that's a big part of feeling confident. How do I get things out of the world? Some people ask a lot of questions. It always feels like a negotiation if you're on this side, on the ask side. Maybe they're not jumping in and being as assertive. They're leaning back. They're watching the world. They're making fewer interruptions. Doesn't mean they're not taking it in. And then we have the tell-directed people that are like, I want this, I want this, I want that, and I want it tomorrow. So listen for your kids. And then we can click, we're not going to watch the videos, but a driver or an analytical is a person that likes tasks and likes to ask questions. That's how they feel like they are more control in the world. A driver is a person that likes tasks and results and action, and they want to tell about those things. They're a driver. They want action. They want results. These people want accuracy. They want lists, and they want order and organization. The expressive will tell you all about wonderful things, and they love bright colors. They love to talk about themselves. They love to talk about trees. They tell you about concepts and stories. And then the amiable folks love people, but they also observed and they want to ask. These are like the great interviewers of our time. So maybe your kids are very inquisitive and quiet. So I want you to write down, because we're not going to watch these videos. We're going to click through. I want you to write down the A word for analytical. The A word for analytical is they want accuracy. Please don't tell fibs to these kids. Please don't be fake with these kids. The drive wants actions. They want to see what you model. If you see it, you should say it, and you should provide the space for it. The expressive loves the compliments. They want appreciation. They want you to appreciate them, and they will show appreciation to you. That's the A word for an expressive. The A word for an amiable is assurance. Assurances. You can't always say everything is going to be okay. So find the thing that you can assure them will be okay. Right? So in our exercise, and I know we're running out of time, if we're not already out of time, because I think we are. Let's click a few more slides and let me judge what that slide is. We're not going to read these videos. But what I think it is slide 36, is that one slide that talks about accuracy, action, appreciation, and assurance. And that's what each of our children, what I want you to do, in addition to writing down their silhouette, in addition to writing down where their deficits might fall, I want you to ask yourself, which of these A words is most aligned to what I observe in my child, right? Or the children in care, right? And these are the ways that your conversations, every conversation needs to have a tone. And this is the tone of that conversation. And these are the inputs to those conversations. Be accurate, right? Give them assurance if that's what they need. Don't deny them that. Going back to what Tony said earlier, you know, make the mom just do. And what Tony may have needed was action, appreciation, and assurance. And that would have helped her to feel more complete or less like overstructured, right? And I'm a driver, so I don't want a whole bunch of appreciation. That doesn't motivate me intrinsically. So these are the types of, this is the exercise that I want each of us to do. And the additional slides are really just, if you click through them, those are just tools for you to have. Those are just tools. If you need a tip on what to do with an amiable or what to say with an amiable, these are tip cards I've left in here for you. The next slide is more tip cards of, if you're trying to educate them, and help them do better in school, the driver, speak in facts. You want them to do better in school, help them understand the concept if they're expressive. You want better grades? Yes, I will make sure the slides are available for everyone. You want them to trust, and amiable needs to know who you are, metacognitive, and help them understand who they are so they feel confident. And to help an analytical feel confident, make sure it's proceduralized or protocolized. You want them to get better grades, make sure we lean into these slides. And the rest of these slides are really just tip cards for us, okay? And I know I went over my time. It was a great discussion. Please do the exercises. And there's a wonderful video at the end that really just talks to us about the power of the words we use every single day. So
Jackie, we're going to pause that video. And Sarah, and Jackie, maybe we can stop sharing the screen so we can all see each other. Yay. And yes, we're a little bit over, but we are here to learn and have a growth mindset. And so appreciative, Sarah, of such important, critical information that I believe so many of us joined this evening from not only professional lens, personal lens, but our own lens as a parent or the way we want to communicate. And you provided so many skills. Krisha, I'm just going to ask before we sign off and thank Sarah. Krisha, if you could pop on and just say hello. Krisha is our speaker next month on April 12th. April is Child Abuse Prevention, Strengthening Families, and Child Abuse Awareness Month. And Krisha, who is the author of Nonviolent Parenting, also has featured her work on TED Talks, and someone that I believe we'll learn so much from. Krisha, can you just say hello to everyone and let them know what to look forward to on April 12th?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here tonight, Sarah. I'm so glad I caught the tail end of that. I'm really excited for the beginning of next month, talking about really focusing on child abuse prevention. I am a big advocate of nonviolent parenting, really dissecting what violence is in different forms in our interactions with young children, who are our most vulnerable population based on age and how society sees them. So really looking forward to sharing that so we can all interact with our children, everyone's children, in the way in which they should be.
Thank you so much, Krisha. Thank you for taking the time to stop by and do a quick meet and greet. We will be sending out the flyer and the information regarding Krisha's training on April 12th. We have another training in April by a former special agent in the FBI who will be talking to us about internet safety and keeping our children safe. So Sarah, with that being said, there's also an evaluation Jackie has placed into the chat box. Please fill out the evaluation. It helps us understand the participants, the community, how we're reaching you, what you'd like to learn more about. And I am definitely sure that we will bring Sarah back because the interactive activities we want to dive into. So Sara Rex, thank you from all of us to you. We appreciate your time and expertise this evening.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. It was amazing. I truly enjoyed all the engagement. Thank you for sharing your evening with me.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Be
Bye.
safe and be back on April 12th.